It is episode 11 on the Empty Room podcast. Tonight we have a special guest. The Pope is looking to calm corruption. Renee Zellwinger is no longer Renee Zellwinger. We say goodbye to Jack Bruce. And the University of Carolina definitely has the blues. Empty Room podcast. Welcome. Okay, it's the Empty Room Podcast, episode 11. Welcome, everybody. Today is a special day because it's the first time in Empty Room Podcast history that my friend Eric is not with us today. Instead, we have a guest star. He's going to be a lawyer, and he is a volleyball player by trade. Really good on the grass. I want you all to put your hands together for Ed. Welcome, Ed.
Scott, thanks for that good introduction. Excited to be here finally.
The Empty Room Podcast, branching out, getting new people involved. This is what it's about, getting different voices and opinions. And we're going to do what we normally do. We're going to talk about the news, the sports, the entertainment. We'll deal with the Pope, our buddy. We love the Pope. I don't know if you've heard, Ed, but we're
big Catholic man, so I'm right up that alley.
We're
I
giant.
can do the Pope.
We're giant fans of the Pope. And then we'll finish off with entertainment. But actually, I think we're going to do news. What did we say? News, Pope, sports, and entertainment? No, sports last. So
That's right.
That's how we're going to handle this one. So let's kick it off with the news. Today's news stuff, we call it the news that makes us want to booze. And unfortunately, Ed, you're off the wagon right now.
Yes. When you get that Ebola light, on some antibiotics, got to clear this stuff out of my system. I'm very jealous of what you're doing right now, Scott.
Yeah, normally, Eric and I have a couple of lagers in front of us, and I'm doing my part. Yours are going to stare at you.
We'll have to drink for both of us.
Oh, no. Then this podcast is going to go downhill fast from this end of the table. So let's start off with Monica Lewinsky. It was interesting. During the pre-setup here for the Empty Room podcast, there is an age difference between us. I'm getting closer to 40. And
not quite to 30 yet.
Ed's chasing 30. So some of the stories and some of the ways we think about things are completely different, mainly because there's a decade between us. And Monica Lewinsky, when I hear that name, I think of something in particular. I'm curious, what do you think about when you hear that name?
I did not have sex with that woman. Would be the only thing that comes to my mind.
And that's what most people think. Well, she has resurfaced. She, in case you were living under a rock in the 90s and 80s, Monica Lewinsky had an affair with the president at the time, President Bill Clinton. His wife, Hillary, denied everything until it was right in front of her face and then had to deal with it. The reason everyone was able to figure it out was that there was a presidential specimen on a blue dress that led to the entire country going, yeah, he did it. So she is sort of gone. She went underground after that. You didn't know much about her. She became basically the country's joke. Well, she's back. She is in front of the news. And a lot of people suspect it's due to Hillary's ambitions to be president at some point. And she is taking on an anti-bullying campaign, but with the press. But what's weird about it is specifically conservative press. Now, again, I don't want to get into politics, Ed, but she has claimed that the Drudge Report ruined her life. So what do you think about that?
I think when I think of her, the only thing that I think of being a mid-20s cat is that she had sex with the president. I honestly didn't know she had any sort of political ambitions from that. I kind of figured she made her money and her fame off her books, her news appearances, and from the sympathy that she got from the country. She's famous in not such a great way.
Yeah, well, Dave Chappelle made it. I thought it was interesting. Dave Chappelle, who's a comedian who I like quite a bit, he talked about how it's, there's very few people that are so powerful that you can get a career out of hooking up with them, and the president is one of them. And when Monica did that, when she got involved with him, obviously it was supposed to stay on the down low. It didn't stay there. And now, I mean, she's going to be remembered for that for the rest of her life. So has she made money off it? Absolutely. Has she been the butt of many, many, many jokes?
Yes.
No question
Can
about
never
it.
think of cigars in the same way nowadays.
No, you can't. So for her, I guess that, wheeling back around to her statement that Drudge ruined her life, I would argue that no, your choices ruined your life. It's never kosher, although, I'm sure in Roman times, hooking up with other people's spouses was okay or
Right.
not really frowned upon. But in this country, it's always been, as long as I've been on the planet, that having an affair with a married person is not a good gig. She picked the most powerful married couple in the world to screw with.
I'm sure nothing could possibly go wrong when you decide to do that.
So it worries me when you talk about today's American people and generations, the younger generations. I don't like the idea that when you make a mistake, you blame other people for what happened to you. If you made these choices, you live with the consequences. She chose to hook up with Bill. Whatever, man, that was your choice. It's over. Like, you can't blame the Drudge Report. You can't blame conservative media. You can't blame liberal media. You can't blame anybody.
Right.
It's just a weird.
It's just you.
Yeah, you make your choice, you make your bed, you live in it. And I don't know what to tell you. So I'm surprised that she's involved, but I think, like I said, I think this is a planned move for the upcoming elections coming up, and hopefully we get to see the blue dress again, because that's always fun. That's always fun.
Under the blue light.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, unfortunately, you touched upon something that's probably more right than you think. As Scott alluded to, my expertise is sort of in the sports world, and just coaching this younger generation nowadays. Everything is somebody else's fault, and you can go to as trivial as you want. My shoe, my ankle, my coach put me in a bad spot to succeed. Oh, bad refereeing. Whereas, back in the day, and I feel kind of weird saying that at only 20. Yeah.
Not even 30 yet.
Yeah, but I mean, you made a mistake, you owned up to it, and like you said, Monica, it's not Drudge Report's fault that you decided to screw around. It's just, it's a decision that you kind of have to live with at this point for forever. That's your label.
You made the call. And the other thing too is that it wasn't just the Drudge Report that was making hay on that.
No.
I mean, there was tons of people. There was the magazines, the Star and the National Enquirer, those type of like not really reliable national news stories, news sources, but they had it first too. I mean, they were right there with the Drudge Report. And then as soon as, things unfolded, I mean, Time Magazine was there. Everyone was there. So, again, it has a feeling of a political hit job. We're going to go after this conservative news source. And really, Drudge isn't anything more than just a website that puts stories from all over the country on. That's all it is. I mean, is there a little bit of a conservative slant? Sure. But it's not them making the news or finding the news. It's just them showing it up. So,
am I misremembering an impeachment hearing as well during that time?
Well, of course. I mean, it led to that.
You can't. That's not a conservative move right there. I mean, everybody kind of liberal, conservative, all call for.
Well, always remember, Eddie. Always remember that when things go wrong, the rats jump off the ship, and I think that's what happened there. I think as it started to unroll and unravel, Bill kept saying it never happened, and it did happen. Then, well, it didn't happen because, I'm sorry to Hillary for, you started slanting it worse and worse, and it got to the point where it's like, all right, this guy's lied to a grand jury, which is illegal. You can't do that.
I'm sorry to the grand jury and for Hillary, but nothing actually happened. Yeah. But I am sorry in case.
But I did something, and there's the famous line, it depends how you define is. And it was... I mean, whatever, man. It got to the point where everyone was like, yeah, you did it, and that's fine. And I tell people I work with all the time, and I even tell my kids, don't lie to me.
Right.
Don't lie to me. Tell me what happened. The cover-up and the lie is always so worse than what you actually did.
America's a forgiving place, especially the public opinion is very forgiving. You come out, you admit your mistake, you vow to be better.
Yeah, you'll be fine. If Bill had said, and especially back then, I hooked up with her. I mean, the thing that could have happened was that Hillary would have left him. And I'm sure there's many times that Bill would have been okay with that. But that was the worst that could have happened. But I'm sure there are a lot of people who are like, yeah, there's a lot of people that screw around a little bit, and that's a very powerful position, and there's a lot of stress involved, and he probably was looking one way. I was like, oh man, oh yeah, and what are you going to do? And she was a young girl that was interested and fell in love with the power of the president. So yeah, I don't like that she's coming out blaming news stories that ruined her life. No, you made the choices. I'm sorry.
Bill should have followed Kobe Bryant's example. Kobe obviously learned from Bill on how to do it. Go admit your mistake, buy an enormous ring, and move on.
Make sure she knows that ring is worth a ton of money in case things go south again. Right. Moving on. Next story, California. A bunch of thieves made off with a truck full of Miller High Life. Now,
it's a champagne of beers, Scott.
It is. I mean, that's what you do, right? I mean, but I felt bad. I felt bad for the guy who was driving the truck because there's a photo of him looking really distraught. And this guy's livelihood. It's kind of a funny case because 2 to 3 guys got away with 44,000 gallons of Miller High Life. What they're going to do with that is beyond possible in my imagination, but they'll come up with something. But this guy, I mean, that's a lot of product that's going to come back on him.
All right, of course.
I'm hoping that it was a straight steal in the sense that it wasn't due to negligence on this guy's part because, will he get fired if he left the keys in the car, went to take a piss?
Of course.
Yes, he will.
Of course.
If he was stuck up with a gun, he's probably going to be okay. So I'm hoping, it was the right direction for him because I hate to see people lose their jobs, especially in today's economy where there isn't many jobs. But it was kind of funny. I wonder what happened to 44,000 gallons of Miller High Life. It is the champagne of beers in somebody's many, many days into a long, long kegger.
If we could just beg the law to just interview these men just to know their plans. I would really appreciate it. I mean, I know stealing's wrong, but you spike my curiosity, guys.
Yeah. What was the plan? Why did you do this? Where did it go? Is
the black market value high on Miller High Life nowadays? They sell for what? $12 for a 24-pack?
Is members of your team dead due to alcohol poisoning? I mean, is there things going on?
Rid the streets of this injustice that's going to happen.
Man, great stuff. Have you ever heard of a man named O'Keefe?
I have once we got to the pre-show, but
right.
Prior to that.
O'Keefe is legendary because he is a conservative ambush video artist. I don't want to talk about his conservatism because it's not where I want to go. However, what he's done, he was able to do a video that ended up shutting down Acorn during the 2008 election for presidentials. And he was able to do some other ambush videos that led to some success in certain areas. His most recent one was done in Illinois, where he was able to talk to election officials and find out that voter fraud was quite obvious and easy to do. Now, my question to you, Ed, how do you feel about ambush video?
It could be a useful tool if it's put in the right hands. As I was telling you in the pre-show meeting, there are people that have done it, and I've seen the videos where people just go out and they look to try to troll somebody on camera to either get publicity or to eventually, file a lawsuit, take home a good chunk of money. And that obviously I frown upon. I hate that you're wasting my time if you go out. The video that I told you about is somebody going out in New Hampshire, brandishing a gun for everybody to see, and then when a cop approaches him, explaining to the cop that you can't talk to me because of this case and this case, but I'm just going to flail this gun everywhere because I want you to try to overreact. And
those that are looking for a fight, that's a problem. I got a problem with that. However, O'Keefe's results are extraordinary. If you're doing things that are wrong, shining the light of justice onto these people is worth a little bit. It just it's weird. It's one of those really interesting tightropes you have to walk because these people don't know the cameras are on. They're acting basically how they would normally act. If the camera was on, would they act differently? You bet they would.
Of course.
So, it's tough. But quite frankly, aren't most people in the country now ambush artists if they want to be? Because everyone's got a phone that's got a video camera on it. Everyone's got a picture on it. I mean, it's not hard to do those things now. And should we do those things? Especially when that might be advantageous for us, or we're in a world of trouble and we got to make sure we document how it all went down.
That's right. I almost feel sort of sympathetic for anybody being a celebrity nowadays, because it's so easy to say one wrong thing and have 15 people there with their camera to show it to TMZ or whatnot. Not to say that they should have said it, but it's just tough going to be under the spotlight every single moment that you're out of your house. And for some, in your house is not safe as well. You look at Donald Sterling, that old senile bastard.
That Donald Sterling thing was bad. It was bad in all sorts of ways, because you find out that he's not a really good guy.
No,
but you also find out that the girl he was hanging with was looking to get him. The best part of that story for me is that all this has gone down. He's been removed from the Clippers, blah, blah, blah. All that's gone. And now the girl's trying to get back with him.
Of course.
And it's like,
still got a lot of money.
Dude, you kick Sugar Daddy in the nuts. You don't get to come back. So that story in general was awful. I think this is where you find out the character of your people.
Well, he was the same guy before that recording took place, unfortunately.
Right. And that's my point. This is where you find out what kind of person you really are. Because if he was a decent guy and people really liked him, the owners of the NBA would have had his back and figured it all out. They wouldn't have gotten rid of him.
Well, they didn't fire him for his discriminatory housing practices in the 90s. I mean, he was under lawsuits for keeping black people out of housing, for treating them differently, and that wasn't a big deal to owners. But now you get that video, and all of a sudden he's...
Well, back then, and those were absolutely wrong stances, but back then there wasn't the power structure. I think you and I in other conversations have talked about the what's that dude's name?
Stern?
Yeah, the David Stern Secret Army, and how he kept things in track.
The old good old Stern Army.
And with the new guy who came in, the guy who looks like a dildo with ears, when he came in, here was a guy that is starting brand new, and he had the same problem as Goodell. People don't remember this, but he had sort of the same problem as Goodell. We haven't gotten into sports yet, but we'll get there. He wanted to be the lawman. He wanted to be the guy in charge. He wanted to be throwing stuff around. Right. Well, if you're going to be the guy that's going to regulate and not take any shit, you can't let Sterling be a racist. Like, that can't happen. I think before that, Stern was okay. Hey, he's in place. We want the Lakers to be better. They have to share.
Clippers.
They have to. They have to share an arena. But we want LA versus Boston. That's how it's supposed to go.
Right.
So it's okay that piece is in place. And now Stern's gone. The army is weakened, and people are out
so slightly.
Yeah, the people are out and saying, "All right, look, that guy's got to go." So I think if he had any sort of love from his complimentary crew, they would have backed him and they would have made sure he stayed in part. But they all turned their back and said, "See ya, pal."
That's right.
So that's
it seemed like a bunch of guys who were kind of just ready to looking for that one.
We need that
straw.
moment.
Yes.
Yeah, we need that moment.
Yes, and now
to
we
get this
have it.
clown out.
And see you later.
So they did. Well, moving on to lawmakers, and I know you're going to be a lawyer, and I'm sorry for that. You'll make some good money, but you'll have to sacrifice your morals at the door.
Hey, it's a stereotype. Not all of us do that. Just the majority.
But there's a lawmaker that went before Congress a couple of days ago saying that the FEC had to silence Drudge Report, and it seems like a Drudge Report show already, silence the Drudge Report and also help control the internet. It shouldn't be free, and I have a big problem with that.
I mean, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just start with that.
Yeah,
you just can't say that. That's just not a correct stance.
It's the last bastion of freedom.
Right.
You have the FEC and you have government control of television, radio. You can't say anything. There's certain guidelines that you have to follow on those venues. Internet is the free world where anything goes. Almost to the detriment of the internet at some point. Because you have stuff that really is illegal and those bastards should be hunted down. It is the last bastion of freedom, and if you take that away and you start deciding who gets to play and who doesn't, it's just another brick of freedom falling off.
It's a pretty damn slippery slope too, considering, like you said, the amount of content on the internet is immense, and obviously some people do some sketchy stuff, and you want that eliminated. But like you said, freedom of speech. I mean, you have to. In order you make the choice to go see a website. If you don't want to see it, don't click the website account.
Exactly. And that's you nailed it. You don't want to see Drudge, don't click on it.
Right.
You don't want to see Fox News, don't click on it. You don't want to see CNN, don't click on it. You don't want to see MSNBC, don't click on it. It's really simple. You have your choice. Go pick it. I mean, that's what, quite frankly, that's what TV should be about. That's what the radio should be about. It's what this podcast is about. There's plenty of people that don't care about the Empty Room podcast.
Right.
7.2 million of it. but they don't click us because they're interested in something else, and that's fine. That's what it's all about. We have to make our product good enough for everyone to listen to, and if they want to listen, they will, and if they do, we'll keep doing it, although I do enjoy just doing it myself.
That's true.
But if you want to be successful, you do what people want. I just don't like this idea that says, hey, you can't be out there because you're promoting something that we don't agree with.
And I'm sure that Drudge Report is certainly seeking out a certain audience for their content. So who I mean, they don't care if liberals don't click on it. So, it should be vice versa. Just saying.
Yeah. There's no reason to be totalitarian about stuff.
Right.
And say you can't do it because we don't agree with you.
Right.
I mean, if that was the case, ISIS wouldn't exist.
That's true. It's a pretty strong. I have a friend who always says, who is this one man in America that decides this is not okay? Because I want to meet him and I want to know how he got that position of power, where you can't post this. Oh, says who? Says, I don't know, this mysterious guy that
I want to slug him. I want to find him.
He's behind the scenes saying, nope, this is wrong. Oh, nope, this is okay. We can keep this going. Oh no, we have to stop this. Yeah. And I guess it comes down to the media being that one group, but who is this one mysterious man in the darkness? Yeah,
I mean, I don't think it's a mysterious man. I do think the mainstream media has a lot to do with it, and I think they work a lot more hand in hand with the government than we realize, and that's why the internet is so important, because it's unfiltered. You can pick whatever you want, and that's how it should be. So we have some breaking news, some sad news, obviously, and actually, these things crop up about once a year, twice a year, and they're always miserable. You're talking about high school shootings.
Oh, right.
And there was one in Seattle just recently, and it was a kid who was rejected by a girl, went out and got a weapon, came in and did some damage. And it's super unfortunate, and it sucks on so many levels. Because for me, I'm a Second Amendment guy. I'm a guy who believes in the right to bear arms. I have items that I utilize and practice with, and make sure that I'm protected from what might come. And then when all these things happen, all of a sudden it's like we need to get rid of all the guns. I don't want to go that route, but I just want to bring it up that it always comes up, and no one talks about the choices again that this person made with the gun. The gun is a tool. It doesn't shoot on its own. It doesn't make decisions about where the bullets fly. It's the person holding it. Now, the counter argument always is, if he doesn't have a gun, he doesn't do it. But that's not necessarily true, though, because you can stab somebody with a knife. You can hit them with a hammer. Anything's a weapon if you want to. I mean, sure, is there a little bit more convenience? Yes and no. There was that story in Norway where a kid sort of similar did the same thing, and he just stabbed everybody. And he got 20 or 30 deep. So, I mean, you can do damage with anything you want.
It's really sad. Chris Rock nailed it back in the day. Whatever happened to people just being crazy? Crazy people are going to do crazy things regardless of what unfortunate instrument they use. The solution is to eventually, fix crazy rather than fix the tool. The tool is going to be there regardless. Like you said, if it's not a gun, it's going to be a knife. If it's not a knife, it's going to be something else. You just can't take all of that away from the world. It's not possible. Which
is the Second Amendment thing that I like, where it says, you can't stop crazy, but you can return fire. And I really like that idea. Do I have any plans of shooting anybody? Absolutely not. I would absolutely love to have my weaponry, my guns that I own, stay in a closet filled with dust. Right. And I never get to use them. Although when I practice to make sure that I know what the hell I'm doing, which I think is important. But do I ever want to bring that out and have to deal with something? No. But if someone's threatening my family, then we're going to have a discussion, and I'm going to be protected, and we're going to do what we got to do. So we branched off into what I wanted to talk about, but I just wanted to get that out there. What I do want to talk about is I went to high school in the 90s, mid-90s, and the people that were picked on in high school, which sucks, don't get me wrong, the people that were a little different, the people that were strange, and I like to say that I include myself a little bit in that department. Our goal back then was never to kill anybody. Our goal
Christ.
was to get out of high school, go to college, reinvent ourselves, get a good job, make a ton of money, and then go back to our reunion and say, yeah, what have you done with your life?
That's right.
And that was the whole point. That's what we wanted to do. There was never a time, even when I was being made fun of, but I was an athlete, so I didn't get it nearly as bad as a lot of other people. There was never a time where I thought to myself, man, I need to go find a gun and shoot somebody. So I don't understand where this mentality has come from.
It wasn't around in my day. I mean, I'm 2002, so yeah, I guess in the early 2000s I was in high school, and at an all boy high school, and there was some bad stuff. I mean, people got picked on, like Scott said. I was an athlete as well, so I didn't get it as much. Kids are assholes. There's always going to be an asshole in class, and I think the worst thing I ever want to do is just punch somebody or shove somebody in a locker, and that was usually where it ended. You just confronted this person, there was some sort of fight, and then that was it. And maybe that's a guy thing. Man, I never wanted.
It just never popped into my head that, man, I got to take somebody out.
Right.
Were there fist fights? Sure. I remember I confronted a bully in a science classroom. He had been giving it to me for a while, and he was a big dude. He was a football player, big guy. And I was tall, but I was thin, and I just had enough. And I remember in my head, I was like, all right, this is where it's going to go. He's either going to beat the hell out of me or not. Those are the choices, but I'm done with his act on me. And I told him what was what, and he looked at me and laughed and walked away. And then from that point on, that guy had my back. It was amazing. It was like I had stood up to him and that had earned his respect, and that was it. I don't know if that happens now. I don't know if you get picked on, you go to confront, and the bullies are worse now. Or you never take the confrontation aspect, and you say, you know what, I'm going to go bring a gun and I'm going to show this guy what's what. And you get in a situation where you show what's what, and now you have a decision to make, and the guy's like, yeah, you ain't got to do it. So I don't know how that all plays out, but I just never thought. Whenever I see these stories, I think A, how that's going to be used against the gun owners, and B, how do these kids even come up with this?
That's unbelievable. I look at that. One commercial that really infuriates me is playing a couple months back was that bully on the bus commercial. You know what I'm talking about, with that one kid? And it makes me angry just looking at it, being like, oh, that really sucks to be that kid. And I'm sure he feels much worse than I do about it. I personally would love to go on the bus and be like, what are you guys doing? Does this make you feel better? So I get how anger would creep up into somebody like that. But like I said, to the point where you have to kill them to do it, and I'm sure, I guess obviously that happens nowadays. Is that it gets to be that bad?
I would wonder if it's you want to scare them because you want to make them feel how you feel. Maybe. So you bring it and you show it, and you get to the point. I don't know, a butterfly lands in your head and it scares you when you shoot. Maybe. Or you know what I mean? Like I try to think of. I don't understand how it can get there, and
it's probably worse nowadays too, because people can be bullies and be tough guys online without looking at people, and that wasn't. I mean, that was
the online aspect.
AIM and email and dial-up internet was my start, I guess. But now you can be an asshole to anybody, and you don't really have to face the consequences. You don't have to face somebody.
It's amazing how big of balls you have online.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, Twitter tough guys.
All of a sudden, you say stuff that's beyond the pale because you got some courage. Stuff you would never say in person.
Oh, correct.
So, I mean, that's a whole different ball game, and you're right. That's tough too. But violence is never the answer. There should be a way to get around it, and death should never be the answer.
Oh, right.
I mean, even bullies don't deserve to die for what they're doing. They deserve to learn not to do that, and they maybe deserve a whooping of their own.
Maybe take a solid beating,
but they don't deserve to die for that either. So
it's really just a sad story, unfortunately. And like you said, it happens once or twice a year, and it's always the same story. I'd like to see it end somehow.
I agree. That's why it's the news that makes us want to booze. All right, it's that time. Although you've never done this before, it is the Pope Watch. You never forget your first Pope Watch. It is a wonderful thing. We love this guy. He's a great guy. He's a good guy. And the Pope is the type, as I was explaining to you in between sets here, that the Pope is a guy that has immense power for the Catholic Church, and those types of things don't exist anymore. So when this guy came in and the things that he's been doing, we've just been giant fans here at the Empty Room Podcast. ISIS threatened to kill him, and he was like, yeah, whatever, bring it on. Love it. Love it. Doesn't want the Pope-mobile? No, I don't need the Pope-mobile. Doesn't want to live in the mansion? No, I don't live in the mansion. I live with my people.
Eastwood of Pope.
Yeah, he is badass, and he continues to be badass. So in today's Pope Watch, I'll start with the thing he said a week ago. And he said, and I quote, "God is not afraid of new things." That's right, you heard that right here. God is not afraid of new things. And I think he's right about that. Now, he mentioned this when he was talking to his parishioners and bishops, because there's been a real pushback from the Pope's idea about annulments, divorces, and even the homosexual community. And he was talking to his constituencies and his fellow governors of the Catholic Church, saying, hey, God's okay with new things. We can do this. What do you think about that, Ed?
See, I was brought up old school Catholic. So it was, you get married, there's two ways to leave the marriage, and they're both in a body bag. But with the changing times, you're right. I mean, a lot of the preconceived notions about the Catholic Church and about stuff that, like I just said, that, if you get divorced, you're going to hell, scares a lot of new people from coming into the church. And I'm not sure that marriage or annulment or divorce is a great enough pillar of the Catholic religion to make a sticking point like that, or to drive people away because of...
Yeah, and I think you made an excellent point in between sets when we talked about the homosexuality thing and about how that rule in the Bible was so important because, quite frankly, when you were trying to have children, only 10% of them survived. And I could argue that divorces and annulments and those types of things could be similar to that type of story, where you had to stay together because you needed to procreate and you needed to have a population.
It's really the exact same thing.
Yeah, you take those things away back then, and you got a world of problems in terms of trying to make sure that the human race continues. That's not necessarily the case anymore, and the fact that the idea of being saved is possible for all who come to the church.
And that is the pillar that the Catholic religion is founded on.
Right. So even with divorce and annulment, and even with a different way of living your life sexually, it shouldn't be that big a deal. And the idea is to bring people together and talk about peace and harmony and make good decisions. We shouldn't be having issues that are so tepid and so just nonsensical. And I don't mean to say that. I mean, marriage is a good thing, and you really do need to work at it. You can't just drop it at the when she didn't cook you dinner, so you're out, or
right.
he didn't give you a foot rub when you wanted, so you're out. You really should. It does take hard work to do a marriage the correct way, and sexuality. A lot of that stuff has been proven to be genetic. Like, you're born that way, and
right.
What are you supposed to do with that? Sure, some of it's choice. I think it goes both ways, but again, they're good people just like every other people. There's good people in those sectors. There's bad people in those sectors. There's good people in my sector. There's bad people in my sector.
Right.
I think I forget who said it. Sure, was it Shaq? I can't remember, but he said something along the lines that there's assholes everywhere.
The big Aristotle.
No, it was Dennis Miller too. Dennis Miller brought up, hey, I want to create a new religion called the assholeology, where the idea is that there are assholes everywhere in all sectors of life, and they're usually take up. If you take all the sections of life in the whole entire world, assholes are 30 to 40% of them, and you can go lower, 20%. Point is, don't be an asshole.
Right.
So,
right.
And I think if you recognize that they come from all sets of life, you don't have to make these rules, and you don't have to be so stringent. You can actually accept people.
And I mean, as a Catholic, and I'm not, obviously not speaking for the Catholic religion, I'm speaking for myself personally. I've never really understood the bias with homosexuality in particular. I don't feel like it's ever been my business, who people love, but on that same note you just said, as long as they're not messing with me or making my life miserable, I don't particularly care. Just be happy in your life and do your thing. As long as you're not interfering with what I like to do, I don't really have a problem.
Right, and the best part is there are more people who are of your particular sexual preference that mess with you than are not.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I mean, it really doesn't matter. Are you an asshole or are you not? That's what it comes down to.
I know straight assholes. I know gay assholes. I hate them all. Unfortunately, all the same.
And I think the Pope recognizes that. Now, the second thing the Pope talked about, and this is actually a very interesting line for me, and he was making a speech, I believe, I always get this wrong, but I think it was in the Vatican. And he talked about how corruption is greater evil than sin. And I found this very interesting because we are living in times, Ed, where governments are very corrupt, extremely corrupt.
Of course.
And it's not just here, it's not just in the United States, it's all over the world. And for the Pope to say, hey, corruption is worse than sin, more evil than sin, very interesting statement.
Well, I mean, the way I would take that, and admittedly not knowing as much as you about politics, just corruption comes off to me as trying to hide your sin. Whereas sin, just if you're going to do something bad, just come out and do it. I mean, that's worse. But trying to do something behind your nation's back makes it exponentially worse. That you're doing it and you're trying to fool your country and trusting you while.
And I'm going to piggyback on that. The idea of fooling and betraying trust is one thing, but you taking their money and using it for your own endeavors, that's my biggest problem. Are politicians great people? No, most of them are not. Most of them are scumbags, and I understand that. Both sides of the aisle, by the way, not just one or the other. Both sides have issues. You want to be straight with me? Don't use my money. You're going to tax me, I get that. You're going to take my money, I get that. But, you want to be okay with me? Ease up on that process. And if you do take it, use it for something that makes sense.
Right.
Don't use it for whether rabbits like to bang each other where they wear leather jackets. Like, I don't care about that type of study. I don't care about things that make no sense. Use it for my well-being. Make sure that the roads are right. Make sure that we have a good defense so that no one messes with you. Make sure that my banking procedures are never hacked. Do the things that are going to help your citizens. Don't do, science questions about, whether polar bears like to make out before they go to business. Like, I don't care about those things.
Nailed it.
So the Pope's on top of these things, as always. He's a great guy, and we love our Pope Watch. Okay, it's time for the entertainment part of the Empty Room podcast. And today's show, we have trouble with faces. Renee Zellwinger. Do you remember Renee Zellwinger? Do you know what she's been in?
See, that's a little bit before my time.
Renee Zellwinger was in a bunch of movies. The one that I like the most is Me, Myself, and Irene with Jim Carrey.
Of course I know
that was the one I liked the most. That was the one where I thought she was quite good.
I had no idea that's who she was.
That's who she was, Wow. I think she was also in, the Show Me the Money one. What was that movie where you had...
Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire. Show Me the Money. That was her, too. She had a distinct look. And I thought it was very pretty. I liked her. Well, obviously she didn't share that view.
Yes.
And she has gone through major cosmetic surgery, and now her new face looks...
like Tales of the Crypt.
Completely different.
If you find that sexy, this is your girl now.
Completely different. And the first thing I saw when I saw when I saw her new face, the first thing I saw was that the eyes are different, the cheeks are sunken in, the lips are different, the nose is different. Everything about her is different. She doesn't even look like the same woman.
She really reminds me of one of those don't smoke commercials where people age way too fast. Oh, I'm 27, but I look like I'm 60. Don't smoke.
Oh, man, I feel bad for the woman. She was very good looking before that. I thought she had a uniqueness, and I like uniqueness because I don't want when I think about women that I find attractive, I don't want the cookie cutter. I don't want the blonde. I want people that look unique, and she's one of them. Well, not anymore.
Right.
Now she looks completely different, and we'll see what that does for her career. But the social networking feeds like Twitter and Facebook, they've all blown up, and they've all said, "What the hell happened to you?"
You can't think that's how she wanted to come out, right? Right?
I mean, has there been a story that she sued her surgeon yet?
It looks terrible. It looks terrible.
The first thing I thought about when I saw it was Jennifer Grey. Now, Jennifer Grey is a little bit past your time, but for those of you in my era that know the great movie Dirty Dancing, my wife loves it, and I'll admit it, I even enjoy it because Patrick Swayze is the man. God rest his soul. He was fantastic. When he said, "Nobody puts baby in the corner," even my cold heart melted. And Jennifer Grey had a distinct look. She had a different nose. She was not the typical Hollywood starlet. Obviously, this bugged her, and she got her work done, and she looks like a totally different woman, and her roles stopped. She did not get any work.
Now, see, you showed me one picture of her, one before and after, and I'm going to say on one of them she looks pretty good, and the other she looks pretty hideous. The one remind me of, what's her name, Detective Benson from Law and Order. I guess that's my contemporary comparison there. But the other one, again, Tales of the Crypt surgery.
So why do these women do this, Ed? These are distinct-looking women who I think look great, and obviously they earned movie roles by how they looked. Why change something as you enter into your 30s? Now, 30s and 40s. Now, obviously, there is no question that women have a different standard in terms of looking as they get older. Men, we can look like dog shit, and we still look great as we get older.
Right.
It's just a double standard. Everyone knows about it. Women have to fight harder to try to stay looking young.
Sorry, I'm not sorry.
Yeah, it's tough. But this type of situation where you're changing your face completely, it's like, if I know any better, Gray and Zellwinger are on the witness protection program, and it's time.
Did a pretty good job if they made it look like that. I feel like even for actresses, though, I know a lot of actresses who have gained movie roles because they've gotten older, and you can identify with them, early in their career, later in their career. I think of Jennifer Aniston, for example.
Sure.
I can picture her young, I can picture her old, and that it's like her trademark.
Demi Moore was another one.
Right.
Demi Moore was another one. But then you have the Tales from the Crypt again. I remember, who was Tom Hanks' big leading lady back in the day? Meg Ryan. Meg Ryan was in everything that Tom Hanks was in. She went under the knife, and she looks nothing. She looks terrible. You can sort of see the eyes, but the lips and ladies, trust me, don't go under the knife. Right. Just don't do it.
It can't, like I said, I can't picture these two lovely ladies wanting to look the way they do now after post-surgery. But for the most part, if you're good looking as a youngster, you will age good looking as well, unless something goes horribly wrong.
Work out, run, do the things you're supposed to do, and don't change who you are. God made you the way you are. You look beautiful. Don't do it. And if you don't believe in God, you were born with lucky traits. Don't do it. You all look the way you're supposed to look. Just work out, eat right. Make sure you love yourself. Make sure you work hard, because working hard's fun too. But just don't do it.
If you got a movie role with a certain face, it's probably for a reason. Don't have to change it up.
All right, we need to say a goodbye, and this is a goodbye mainly for me because you can't remember the guy.
Nope, this is getting before my time.
It's not before your time though. Because you know the Boondock Saints.
I do.
You know the Saints, yes. Right? You know the Saints. And a guy named... The actor's name is Gerard Parks. And Gerard was the bartender in the Boondock Saints, the original one. I think he was in the second one, too. He was a stuttering bartender who who like to say bad words.
Fortunately, the scene escapes me at this point.
Yeah, and he was badass. I mean, he initially, what people my era remember him from is that he was the guy, the inventor for Fraggle Rock, Jim Henson's kids show. And he was clever, he was funny, he was witty, he was Irish, he was a nice guy. And Fraggle Rock, we loved him. We were like, oh, here comes the inventor. It was really cool. And he would work with the puppets. It was really neat. We remembered him. I had forgotten about the man until I saw the Boondock Saints. And there he was. He was the guy who they sort of, they kind of made fun of because he stuttered a lot. But he was witty, and he always told them to go fuck themselves, which I thought was great. So unfortunately, he passed away at 90. It's a great run. Really, job well done in the acting community. I remember him fondly for both when I was a kid and when I was an adult, and that's hard to do. So goodbye, Gerard Parks. Well done. Now, moving on to something a little bit nicer and weirder. Are you a Pee Wee Herman guy?
See, I just know the face. I don't know his career very much.
Oh,
Thankfully,
man.
I unfortunately haven't followed it, I guess.
Pee Wee Herman came out, I want to say, early 90s. And Paul Reubens is the comedian. And Pee Wee Herman is just uncomfortable. But a lot of people like that uncomfortable humor. They like the way it goes. And Pee Wee, I don't know. Like, he had this weird show where talking chairs and talking everything. And it wasn't really educational. It was just batshit crazy. And kids loved it.
Sounds like a damn shame I've missed out on this one.
Yeah. And then Pee Wee Herman went away because there was actually a Pee Wee movie. There was a Pee Wee Herman movie, and it was pretty good. It had that famous scene where you have the tequila song.
Oh, yes.
He's on the bar, and he's got the shoes on, and he's, that was the big scene. And then the idea of him going to the Alamo because he needs to go to the basement, but there is no basement in the Alamo, and whatever. So that was going along, and Pee Wee was pretty recognizable. And then Paul Reubens got arrested for masturbating in adult theater.
I was actually going to mention that. I was wondering if he was the one who caught a charge like that, or I wasn't sure if it was him or Mr. Bean.
No,
they're not the same person,
Mr. Bean's
right?
not the same guy.
But they're both pedophiles, apparently.
No, Mr. Bean's all right. I haven't heard anything on Bean.
So maybe I was just...
Yeah, you're just
All right.
hating on Mr. Bean.
Sorry, Mr. Bean, if you're listening to this. I apologize. Don't sue me.
He won't sue you. He's not listening. But... anyway, Reubens was arrested for that, and he's made a slow and methodical comeback. He's been involved in things, and now it looks like there's going to be a Pee Wee Herman movie. Do you care, Ed?
No.
Okay. Ed doesn't care.
Can
you know what?
sum it up like that?
I don't care either because I don't know, man. That Pee Wee Herman movie came out when I was a kid, and I never really was a fan. I think it's a sign of the times that there's not many good ideas in movie world, and they're going to do anything they can now.
I'm not sure that humor can keep going throughout the times, and I'm not sure if that lasts.
Who knows,
if
man?
it started off to begin with.
But it's a whole new crew that a whole new generation of people are going to be introduced to Pee Wee Herman.
I don't think they care, Scott. At least if I don't. I
hope
they don't.
I'll leave you with this, okay? I'll leave you with this on Pee Wee Herman. That song, the tequila song, that's played at every volleyball game that I've been at this year. It's been played at every basketball game. It's going to happen. I guarantee it. It's been played at every football game. That happens. It's sort of a mixed-up dubstep version of it, and everyone does the Pee Wee Herman dance.
See, I wasn't even sure Pee Wee Herman had a dance.
He does. The fingers forward, fingers back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. See, you don't know. You're going to have to get involved. You know what? If we have you back 2 weeks from now, we'll have Ed back, and I bet you he loves Pee Wee Herman because he's going to look it up and realize that that's where all this stuff comes from. So, Pee Wee Herman. Unbelievable. The Penguins of Madagascar. I mean, have you seen the Madagascar movies? You don't have kids yet, so you don't know.
No, it's not.
You don't know. The Penguins are the greatest part of the whole thing, and they're going to have their own movie. And I think that actually is a good thing. And whether you know them or not, that's not the question. What I want to talk about briefly is how most of the good movies are cartoons.
I would agree.
Pixar, the guys that do Madagascar, the guys that do... all these cartoon movies are really where it's at.
I don't care how old you are. Toy Story and Toy Story 2,
Sure.
Toy Story 3, all knock it out of the park.
Monsters, Inc.
That. Oh,
the
yes.
Monsters, Inc. movies.
I don't think you could find a single person who hates
The Wall-E.
Up.
Wall-E was great. Up was great.
If you didn't cry during Up,
yeah,
you have no soul.
So Madagascar movies were good. Rio movies are good.
That's right.
and they're not just for kids; they're for adults too.
Right.
Why are all the good ideas going there? And quite frankly, real Hollywood can't make a good movie at all.
I love the humor in those cartoon movies. I went to see Toy Story 3 with my cousin, 10 years younger than me, so I feel like that came out 3 years ago. So we're talking 23 and 13. And she's laughing at some jokes that I find corny, and then I'm laughing at some jokes that she just doesn't get.
That's
so
right.
I love that.
Right,
I love that Disney Pixar slips in that humor regardless of what movie they do, and they do a great job.
They do.
It cracks me up.
Real Hollywood, get your shit together, because the cartoons win in the battle over and over again. It's not even close right now.
Yeah,
Not
especially
even
in comedies, forget about it.
Yeah, forget about it. La Bamba star Elizabeth Pena died of alcohol abuse. That sucks.
Yeah, you told me she's the one from The Matrix, right?
I'm not sure on that. It hasn't been actually proven. I thought it was her, but I know she was in La Bamba, and again, we're talking about movies that are older, that are from, quite frankly, my generation. And she died last week, but it was weird because they didn't say what happened. They were just like, yeah, she passed away at 57. 57's young.
Yeah, that's not exactly natural causes territory quite yet.
So I figured something was up, and it turns out it was alcohol abuse, and that'll get you every time, I guess. I mean, jeez. And I'm going soon too. Oh boy.
And then forget that first lecture of my first year in college, our professor put up some stats. I think the one that stuck out to me the most was, does alcohol make you feel better in social situations? And I was like, yes. Yes, it kind of does. Oh, classic sign of alcoholism. You guys are all alcoholics, trying to make a joke to our freshman class. But unfortunately, that's if where it's going to lead, then I'm not exactly excited about what I've done.
Yeah, alcohol's tough. I mean, it really can be, but I tell you what, in moderation, you're fine. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. What was it? Plato's version of everything in moderation, and you're fine, and that's what we need to do. And then the last thing for entertainment, and God help me, Eric is going to hate me that I brought this up, is Honey Boo Boo.
It really sucks that this is...
Honey Boo Boo has been canceled by TLC. First off, TLC, God damn you. Why would you put them on in the first place? Okay, not cool, man. You're just totally bringing the bar down.
Shows like this make me hate my life so much, because I know a lot of people that work pretty damn hard and don't get paid more than these idiots get paid in one freaking episode just for being... trailer trash. God damn it.
It's tough. So, and TLC's retort to me would be, first off, who the hell are you? And then secondly...
People watch.
Yes, it's exactly. We give the people what they want, and that's a sad state of affairs. But they've canceled them, and at least they've canceled them for a reason. And the reason is that the mother is dating a dude who molested one of her family. It turns out to be her daughter.
Who is actually Honey Boo Boo?
No, it's not Honey Boo Boo. It's the one they call Chickadee. God help me that I know that.
Where I come from.
Could you grab that shovel over there and beat me over the head? The fact that I know that.
I will end it honorably for you.
Oh, God.
The fact that, well, at least where I come from, if a family member, God forbid, did something like that to my family, I probably would take them off the dating list.
You would think, right?
Just my logic, I guess.
I just don't. Man, I don't know. So I guess a moderate, small cheers to TLC for canceling the show due to these incredibly awful people.
Better late than never, I suppose. But
man.
You've taken away so many minutes of so many lives that they can just never get back.
Yeah, and already my brain hurts. I'm going to stop now. God help us. Honey Boo Boo. Honey Boo Boo has made Empty Room Podcast. Hey. All right, it is time for the final part of an Empty Room podcast of sports. But before we get started, Ed, I apologize. I forgot to talk about breaking news that happened moments ago in the entertainment world. Jack Bruce passed away. Jack Bruce was the lead singer of Cream. Cream consisted of Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker, and Eric Clapton. Probably the first real power trio in rock and roll. Unbelievable music. I was a giant fan. These guys were the greats. And a little known story about these three gentlemen. Everyone remembers Eric Clapton as being the be-all of the rock and roll world with them, but it really wasn't his band.
That's how I know him.
Yeah,
So.
it really wasn't Clapton's band. Clapton was sort of like a hired muscle. I mean, they all were friendly and they all knew of each other, but the guy who put the band together was Ginger Baker, the crazy redhead drummer. And he had this idea where he wanted to utilize his drumming style the way he wanted to, because he had a more African, real soulful drum style that he was playing jazz band stuff. He was jazz duos and trios, and no one wanted his style of drumming. So he said, all right, I'm going to put together a band of my own, and I'm going to get my friends. And he got Eric Clapton to come play, and he got Jack Bruce. Now, the problem was him and Bruce had a very on-again, off-again relationship. They either got along or they didn't, and when they didn't, it always came to fist blows. So the way Cream started was the way Cream ended, with a fist fight between Ginger Baker and Jack Bruce. And at the end of the day, that sort of became the pattern for all of Ginger Baker's projects. He would come in, they'd make unbelievable stuff, and then he would explode on them, and that would be the end. So no one ever thought that Jack Bruce would die before Ginger Baker. Ginger Baker was batshit nuts. But unfortunately, he passed away today at 71. And, if you ever get a chance and you want to listen to some real high-level music, rock and roll, check out Cream. So many great songs, so many powerful 60s jam stuff. You just couldn't believe it. And you have three of the giants in rock and roll history on one crew. Really tough to beat. So rest in peace, Jack Bruce. Now let's get to some sports, shall we? I know you've been waiting patiently for this moment.
I have.
Let's start off with a chip shot, something that's good. David Ortiz, who, the great home run hitter for the Red Sox, decided to surprise some military personnel with tickets to the World Series. That's a pretty nice move by the Big Papi guy, eh?
You take any Red Sox bias out of it. That's how it should be done.
That's right.
That's how it should be done.
That's right. And those guys are witnessing an unbelievable event. The Royals. We were talking about it the other podcast, the other episode, where are we all Royal fans now? And we have to be, don't we?
I think I certainly am. I mean, I just don't want to see the Giants win it year after year without any players that I really know on them. It's just the Royals remind me a lot of, that typical team of destiny that kind of really seem to love playing with one another. Kind of like last year's Red Sox, actually, not to bring them back into it, but just a team team chemistry versus, more talent certainly on the San Francisco side. But just, guys love playing with one another, play for each other, and seem to be, destined to do this, hopefully. Knock on wood.
They got to win it, man. They got to win it. I love the fact that the Royals haven't been relevant since Bo Jackson. And here they are, 2014, right on the cusp of winning the World Series. It's got to happen. Got to happen.
It's probably going to tell you a little bit about myself, but I wish I had put some money down on the Royals to win the World Series at the beginning of the season. I think they were, if not the bottom, down near the bottom 5 teams in terms of odds to win the World Series. I just think of them as the perennial last place team that always loses to Detroit, Chicago.
Yeah, but this year's different. I mean, they have a good set of relievers. Alex Gordon is playing pretty high level ball.
It's about time.
Yeah, it's. I remember when the last time because I know you're into fantasy stuff, like fantasy baseball, fantasy football, fantasy basketball. The last time I played fantasy sports, which was a long time ago now, probably 4 years ago, I drafted a guy named Alex Gordon. And everyone was like, dude, you're going to love that pick. Like, he's going to be really, really good.
And you probably didn't.
And he sucked. And I was like, oh, people lied to me.
The Royals got a lot of, this is going to be so nerd, so just get ready for it. But my baseball league is basically just draft every single year minor league prospects because we hold over, so you draft guys 2, 3, 4 years in advance of them actually coming to the big show. And Gordon was one of those guys where it's like, yes, as soon as he finally gets up, he's going to explode. And he didn't. Same thing with, what's his name, Moustakis, same thing.
Yeah.
The only guy that's kind of filled that profile is, what's his name, their reliever that throws 99, 100, his name Ventura, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, he's one of those prospects that came up and actually did what he was supposed to do. But it seems like all those guys are finally living up to something that resembles their potential.
So exciting. So we're all Royals fans. Get after it. Win that World Series so that Bo Jackson can sleep at night.
That's right.
Moving on, justice as a lawyer that you're about to be is cruel because this guy Oscar Pistorius, who murdered his wife.
Is there any question about it?
No, murdered his wife.
Eyes.
Only got 5 years and can be out in 10 months. What the hell's going on over there in Africa?
See, I have no idea how the African court systems work, but I know that he got off with, I think the major charge was premeditated murder, which would be like the America's equivalent of first degree, I guess, with the premeditation, and then got convicted of, I guess, what the American version of manslaughter would be.
Yeah.
But damn, that just doesn't seem right.
It doesn't seem right.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I don't understand the issue. I don't understand how a man can shoot a woman through the door and it not be some sort of really large murder sentence.
Now, remind me of the events. He was inside the bathroom.
No, she hid inside the bathroom
because she thought she heard a intruder.
And he came out thinking it was an intruder.
Thinking the intruder locked herself in the bathroom.
Right. So then he opened fire and killed her.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and obviously he didn't have his leggings on, so it was really low to the ground.
Right.
Which, I don't know. Man, that dude should be in jail for a while. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. I mean, I think that's pretty much the beginning and end of the conversation. You don't... If a robber, God forbid, comes in your house, I doubt one of the things he would do is lock himself in the bathroom in fear.
And scream.
Right, like a girl. Like a girl. No, I mean, not trying to be stereotypical or anything, but the vast majority of house invaders are usually male, I would assume. Don't sound like your girlfriend when they scream.
And usually they don't say, don't shoot me in the bathroom. I'm your girlfriend.
Right.
Please stop.
Right.
So, yeah, this guy's an asshole. He should be in jail. Hopefully.
Karma always comes around somehow.
It does.
10 months doesn't really sound like it, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, ask OJ.
Right. Well, I mean, he found a way to get himself thrown back in jail, so.
All right, well, we hope bad things happen to him. And Aussie swimmer completes 78-mile swim. I've been in the pool. I've swum 2 miles, 3 miles at a time in the pool.
That's significantly more than I've ever been able to swim in my life. So,
and I get skin shrinkage, and I feel uncomfortable, and my body temperature kind of goes wacky. This woman, I believe it's Chloe McCardle, swam across a gigantic body of water between 2 islands, and it is a 78-mile swim for 42 hours. God bless her.
42 hours. I mean, you got to be treading water the entire time, so there's no food, no drink. You're just swimming for 42 hours.
I'm pretty sure that they can feed you. I'm sure there's a boat that goes along next to her.
Well, she doesn't get out, right?
I don't think so.
That's incredible.
And, I might be wrong on that. I mean, please feel free to send a note to the Empty Room Podcast on our Twitter or Facebook account and let me know if I'm wrong on that. But I think she has to stay in the water for it to be continuous. But they can give her power bars and stuff like that, and I'm sure...
That makes sense.
But unbelievable achievement. Good for her.
And swimming is hard, so like Scott said, kudos.
Yeah, well done. Going back to the World Series, most recent game was yesterday. And as you do in World Series, there's a lot of fanfare. There's a lot of real big production.
Right.
They brought out a gigantic American flag and then accidentally ripped it in half. Now that is awesome and strange and cool and weird all at the same time. I didn't get to see it, but I saw a photo, and yeah, it sure did.
I really wish I was watching the intro to this because I can't even imagine the producers at Fox being in the TV room. You got that beautiful panoramic shot, I'm sure, from the blimp of the field, big flag stretched across the infield, and all of a sudden, panic. Because the American flag is ripped in half.
Is the flag really ripping?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's ripping. Oh no.
It's probably cut away now.
Is there anyone who can talk right now? Anyone? Where's McCarver? Where's Rick Sutcliffe? Someone get on the mic. I don't even think those guys are talking anymore.
It's Harold Reynolds, Aaron Boone, right?
They got Harold Reynolds back?
Harold Reynolds, post-sexual assault.
Whose ass did he have to kiss to get back on the TV?
I have no idea, but he says some stuff that I don't watch baseball as much as I used to, but he says some stuff that even I know makes no sense whatsoever.
Harold Reynolds. It used to be, I'm thinking back to the days when the Red Sox, 04, 08, that type of thing, where they had Rick Sutcliffe on. And my friend and I had this great idea, because Sutcliffe didn't seem to be in the Red Sox favor. He seemed to always be against. And we thought a good shirt to make would be "Fuck you, Rick Sutcliffe." It just rolled off the tongue well. It seemed like a good shirt to make. We never acted on that idea, but we thought that would be a good one to make. And I'm actually sort of surprised he's not involved anymore. McCarver retired, like he's just done.
Joe Buck, of course, with all the enthusiasm of taking out the trash in the afternoon.
Oh, man. Well, at least it's not, what's-his-face, the pontificator about liberal ideas, Bob Costas.
Oh.
He's going to tell us that the Redskins is wrong or racist if we like the name, and God help us. All right, we won't go down that rabbit hole, but we will talk about briefly about Joe Madden. He was the coach, the manager, the skipper of the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, and he is out. He's done. He is not upped up.
Because he opted out of that last
option.
He
didn't re-up on his option year, and there's 100% chance that he will not coach the Tampa Bay Devil Rays next year. Why do you think he bolted?
Well, first off, somebody tell me what makes him a good manager.
Well, he seems smart.
Right.
He seems really smart.
Right. But
the players like playing for him for the most part.
He's made it to 1 World Series and lost, and 4 playoff appearances.
Well, I mean, there's so many managers that don't make it to the World Series. That's sort of tough.
That is true. But he is widely considered by, I feel like every analyst, every player considers him a good manager, and they obviously know more than I do, so he's apparently pretty good. But I'm assuming he probably got fed up with not being able to pay a single star on his team to stay.
Right.
They bring up, they have a great farm system. They bring up stud after stud. And as soon as those guys are ready for that big contract, they have to bring up the next young stud because they let them leave.
There's a lot of nickel and diamond going over in Tampa Bay, and the field sucks.
Right.
And,
oh yes.
There's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to be there, and I'm sure Joe Madden's looking around going, I could do better work elsewhere.
The Dodgers is the name I keep hearing getting brought up.
Yeah,
Magic
probably.
Johnson and his $1 billion, and they're certainly not afraid to pay people. So if he goes there and
but at some point, Magic's going to get bitten in the ass because he makes a ton of really questionable decisions. He's throwing a lot of money at a lot of people. At some point, it's going to blow up. You just don't know when it's going to happen. So I don't know if you want to be on that train as it's going full speed off the cliff.
Maybe you bolt off before that, but you do have some damn good players there.
Yeah, well, it's true. You do. I mean, it's an interesting situation, but I don't know if that's the fit he wants, especially for a guy who's used to being low profile.
True.
He's not used to being challenged very often. He's not used to being, in the limelight. Let me rephrase. He likes to put himself in the limelight, but it's always on his terms.
True.
It's not like he's the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Dodgers where you're going to get it whether you're winning or losing. If you're losing, God help you. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I think it'd be interesting if he went to Milwaukee or if he went to somewhere Midwest, which would be a little bit more his style of I'm in control and everyone goes along with what I want to do. But we'll see what he does.
Where I would go personally, if I were him, and it doesn't obviously, feed the low profile, is the Chicago Cubs. Because you look at that, those fans need some sort of, they're ready to embrace some sort of figure. Kind of like, again, the Red Sox, because the team I know. But when John Farrell came in, it was like, yes, this is the man that will finally bring us to the promised land. And you go to Chicago, and you win, you forget it. You make the playoffs. Drinks might be free for the next 10 years. You win a World Series, you are a legend. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. You won
Right,
You know?
and I think Theo would be very open to that, to bringing him aboard. I just the Cubs is such a risky proposition. Like people go there to die. I think Theo's in a world of trouble over there because he was sort of the savior. Theo Epstein, that is, and he was sort of the savior, and he went over there and did nothing. So
They've got some good talent.
I don't know. I think it's a tough, risky situation.
It's certainly high risk, high reward.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, whoever gets it done is going to be a legend.
Right.
Right. But we're looking at a place and an area where one kid in the stands did something wrong, and he is a villain for the rest of his life. So I mean, I think it's high risk. You're gonna get your asses. Something bad's gonna happen to you. Like you got to be okay with that. And I think Theo's learning the hard way. I think a lot of other guys have gone through the system have learned the hard way. I don't think Joe Madden's that type of character. I don't think he's a guy that can handle that. At least that's my opinion. I mean, maybe you think otherwise.
Just
but
can't see him leaving a small market to go to another small market. I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see in the coming weeks what he.
But there are small markets that pay a lot more money, and I think that's what would be different. Like if he went to, I don't know, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh would be an incredibly low market situation. He'll get a better salary out of that, and they do a little bit better with and it's a better field, a little bit better with their players, and they actually got a pretty good system going on over there. So I mean, it might be a good fit.
You're right about that.
So
I keep forgetting all but 4 or 5 teams in baseball are all small markets. So.
Yeah, most of them are. I mean, you're talking New York, Boston,
Right,
LA, and that's
it.
Chicago.
Right.
There you go. That's it. All right, so Madden's done. Now let's get to the stuff that's controversial. I'm gonna start off with North Carolina.
Oof.
Yeah, this one hurts because I am a giant North Carolina basketball fan, Tar Heel fan, more so than anything else. Loved Michael when he was there. Loved Worthy. Loved all those guys. Rasheed Wallace, Vince Carter. I mean, I could go on and on about the guys that have played in Carolina Blue and how much I enjoyed watching them play. Dean Smith was a hero of mine.
My ex-girlfriend is really going to hate this conversation. She's also a big North Carolina fan.
But it has come out that there's an incredible academic fraud situation going on at the University of North Carolina. It turns out that over 1,500 athletes have been involved in this. Now, I don't know if this is the same story that, what's his name, a basketball player, I can't remember his name now, which is killing me. Sugar. Can't remember his name. That's going to hurt me. I can't remember. But there was a player that came out earlier that said, I got paid to play here.
Rashad McCants.
Yeah, McCants. Thank you. McCants came out and said, I didn't. It was something about academic fraud. And I don't know if these things are linked or not, but this case is you have a bunch of athletes and normal students. It's not just athletes. I think the total number of students that are involved are near 3,500 or something like that. Yes. And they're taking these faulty classes. They're taking classes that don't really even exist. And they're African American studies. They're anything, these Afrocentric courses that aren't real. And you get A's and B's just because you don't have to show up. It's unbelievable.
There's no place to show up if there's no classroom. There's a professor assigned to it because they helped out in this scandal if it's true. But it's not really a good look for college athletics. I feel like that's the stereotype anyway, is that you play football, basketball at one of these prestigious universities, you go to class, you sleep through it, and that's the stereotype. And unfortunately, this allegation is not doing anything to disprove that.
In Division I, there is that spotlight that says these are not really student athletes. These are guys that are prepping for the professionals. They make their schools a lot of money, especially football and basketball. It's the idea is that Division III is different. It's a real student athlete centered situation. But Division I, that's sort of the rap they get. And you get a story like this for this magnitude. That's why it's interesting that it's not just athletes. It's anybody. Anybody who wanted to take these courses gets an A and gets credit.
Right.
And it was, I don't understand.
Almost surprised it stayed out of the limelight for so long with so many people that have really nothing to benefit from.
Well, the problem is,
aside from a free A, of course.
The problem is that we're living in a society that it has a problem with race. And once I found out that the classes were Afro studies and African studies and Afrocentrism, and I mean, no one's going to call foul on that because you're going to be viewed a racist. And finally, someone broke it. Someone said, "Wait a minute, what the hell is going on around here?" And oh man, I'm just so disappointed in that school. I loved that school. I was a giant fan of that school. And when Dean Smith was there, I gotta hope. I mean, I don't have any proof, but I gotta hope that Dean Smith held his kids accountable and did it the right way. But it's kind of like the whole steroid era. Like now that you know this, like did he do it the right way? Was there other perks? I mean, I'm sure there's perks for Division I athletes, but are those degrees meaningful?
Yeah.
Are those degrees meaningful that those kids get?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Man, I don't know.
Obviously, all the facts haven't come out yet, but from what I've read so far, I feel like I've read via ESPN, which means nothing, but, that the coaches weren't involved or didn't know about it. But, I found it pretty hard to believe that you can have that many players over long.
There's no way. I mean, they're going to say they don't know because they have to cover their ass.
20 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way. There's no way because you have to, as a coach, you have to know what's going on with all your kids, and you have to know how they're doing academically because you're so worried about making sure that they're able to participate.
Right.
There is no way that coaches didn't know about this. Man, how does that happen? How does that happen in a real academic university? And they're going to pay the price. If it's true, they're going to pay the price, and it's going to be really crappy. And it's going to. I mean, I would suspect that the NCAA will come on really hard for them.
Penalty.
They have to because of the fact. I mean, it's like anything else. If you actually reveal that the job isn't real, you put everyone at risk.
Right.
You put everyone at risk. You talk about, what was the other thing? I keep thinking of Mel Brooks. Have you ever seen Blazing Saddles?
No.
Oh man, you gotta see Blazing Saddles. There's a part in Blazing Saddles where they're having a meeting with the governor. All right, the governor is here, and they're talking about some topic. They're talking about a topic of what they're going to do for the new sheriff, and they can't figure out what to do. And the governor says, "Look, gentlemen, we have to protect our phony baloney jobs here. We have to do something because if it's ever found out that we don't know what the hell we're doing, forget about it. We're all gone. The jig is up." And this is the scenario. This is the exact scenario that's happened in Carolina, is that they have been discovered to be fraudulent academically.
Yep.
And it's well known, and it's sort of a wink and a nod that in Division I, there's a lot of money being made by these athletes.
Oh yeah, you got to think this is not the first.
No,
not the first or the last school that's done something like this.
But now the light's on it, and the NCAA has to come down and say, absolutely not, you're out.
And the first is always going to be the example that they set.
Sure. Although, to be fair, I thought Penn State would get the death penalty with the football issues, with Sandusky and all that, which I think is actually far worse than any academic fraud.
Oh, for sure.
But they did not get the death penalty, and actually they're back in business, and it's like nothing happened.
Don't look too bad.
And there's a bunch of idiots on that campus that want to resurrect the Paterno statue.
Right.
So, man, it's tough times for the Tar Heels. Really, really tough, and I don't know if there's any way around it. I think you just take your medicine and hope that maybe you get a reprieve later on. The last story that we're going to talk about is another one that's controversial.
Here we go.
And it deals with Michael Sam. Michael Sam is supposedly the first open gay player to come to the NFL. I mean, I'm sure there have been other homosexuals that have played in the NFL we just don't know about.
Certainly.
But he's the one that came out before the draft and it was sort of a big deal. And then when he was drafted finally by the Rams in the 7th round, he was making out with his boyfriend, which is fine, except no one else made out with their wives or girlfriends when they got selected. But
really
whatever.
As it would be awkward if a heterosexual couple made out on TV, I would be pretty
it's
sketched out about that.
It's one of those things where it seemed scripted.
Yes,
it seemed out of place because. It's not the right time. Not the right time. So he goes to the Rams, he gets cut. And then the news story got out that the NFL was asking around, would anyone pick this guy up, please? which is unusual because I'm pretty sure that there's plenty of NFL players that have been cut that the NFL has not spoken for on their behalf at all.
And by that, you mean every single other player that's ever been cut.
So the Cowboys took up the mantle and picked him up. Jerry Jones, who actually at the time needed a little good publicity because he was being sued by a girl for sexual misconduct.
Allegedly.
Which fell through, so he's fine now. Good for him. Although I'm sure the little lady got a decent money purse out of the situation. And don't quote me on that.
That never happens. Never happens.
But now he has been cut again. So now Michael Sam is without a job. And, of course, all the vultures come out and say that the NFL is too homophobic and that it's not ready for gay men. And I cannot emphasize enough that I don't care about what your sexual preference is.
Right.
I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I don't give a shit. What you do in your bedroom is your own business. As long as it's not with children, I'm good with it.
Right.
Fine. What we talked about, and I'm going to let you lead into it, is if you can play, you're in, right?
Right. Always. I mean, when is... I almost thought we were making some progress with this issue because we hadn't heard about Michael Sam in weeks. He was just going to be... progress would be that he's just considered a football player, a mediocre football player. Don't worry about him being gay, straight, crooked, whatever. He's just not that good at football, and that's the reason why he's being cut. Every single player that you've interviewed, every single person in football that's not in the media doesn't give a shit that he's gay. I specifically remember, what's his name? Chris Long from the Rams saying after ESPN ran a stupid effing story about where he showers and how he showers.
See, this is where ESPN gets their black eyes. They do stupid things, and then they think they're being progressive. And then you look like, you just looked like, first off, you looked creepy.
That's right.
You were actually creeping on this guy who was showering.
Right.
Not cool, man. And not cool if he's straight, not cool if he's gay. That's their own business. And secondly, you made, a mountain of a molehill. No one gives a shit. So continue. I'm sorry.
What I was going to say was the tweet that came out from Chris Long was, hey, we are over it. We are over it. And I feel like high-level athletes in every sport don't care. Race, color, religion, sexual orientation. If you can play and you serve a purpose to help that team win, there is a spot for you.
Exactly.
There's a spot for you.
And that's how I've felt about sports for a long time. It's one of the reasons I enjoy it, is that I played sports all throughout my life, and I learned early on that if you could play, you were in.
Right.
It didn't matter what you looked like. It didn't matter what you sounded like. It didn't matter what your sexual preference. None of that stuff mattered. If you could ball, you were in.
Right.
And and unfortunately for this kid, I would bet, and of course I don't know anyone's mind. I can't be in their heads, but I would bet if he had this all to do over again, he would probably not do it the way he did. He would probably just try to do it through football. But I think somebody got to him and said, look, you can be a hero. You can be the guy who trailblazes this. Right. And quite frankly, you have a better chance of getting on a team if you do this now. Because now's the time. It's progressive. We can do this. And it was so wrong. Because as much as the mass media wants to destroy football, and they do, by the way, football's on its way out. You talk about concussions. You talk about, all the new flag rules for saying bad words. Yep. Football is on its way out. It's under attack. The whole Redskins thing, which is ludicrous. There's a problem here, and football has to see it. Through all that, it's still about performance.
Right.
It's still about performance. And unfortunately for this guy, he is not good enough.
Right.
Could he be good enough in a couple of years? Maybe. If he puts the work in and gets, maybe plays in the CFL somewhere, maybe plays over Europe, whatever, and then comes back and tries again. Those are all possibilities. But is he good enough now to make a roster? The answer is his play says no. It has nothing to do with anything else.
That's what happens to players who don't make teams. Where everybody's following this story because he's the first openly gay athlete. But you have no idea how many football players just did exactly what Michael Sam did. Drafted late, latched onto a practice squad, got cut, latched onto another practice squad, got cut, go somewhere else and play, maybe make it back to the NFL. Shit, the Patriots release the same guy over and over and over and over. It's just what happens when you're not good enough to help the team win right now.
That's right.
And to use a negative example, more performance-based, there's a reason, in my opinion, why Ray Rice will never get back into the NFL ever again, and why Adrian Peterson will sign with somebody next year. It's because Adrian Peterson is great, and Ray Rice is
on his way
not
out.
as great.
Yeah, he's
not
on
as
his
great.
way out the door.
If you can play, it doesn't matter, like I said, race, religion, credo, or what you've done on and off the field. If you can play, shit, Dante Stallworth killed a man. Michael Vick fought dogs. Like, you can do some stuff. If you can play, people will find a place for you in this league. It's all about the W.
It is. And unfortunately, the story is about this kid being gay.
Right.
And I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure if he had to do it over again, he wouldn't want to do this, because now he's just gay.
He's getting the Tim Tebow treatment, in my opinion.
But that's the thing. Like, he's more than a gay person.
Right.
He is. Like, he's a human being. He has wants, desires, dreams, all those things. He has qualities. And right now, all he is the gay guy that got cut, and it's not fair to him.
Right.
Like, he's a real person.
Right.
And it really sucks that this is the line that everyone took, where it should be, here's a kid whose dream of playing football was very close, has to go back to the drawing board.
And that would be real progress.
Yep.
If we didn't have to mention the fact that he was gay or that he got drafted late as a gay man, if we just said, this is a football player, and we could just at some point ignore the fact that he is gay. That's what progress is. It's not about him making the team. It's not about him starring or being an all-pro. I mean, that is certainly great for his personal, like you said, personal goals and desires. But if we as a society can just say, it doesn't matter if he's gay or not. He's a football player. He's X amount of good. This is period. And not mention it. That would be what I'm thinking people who really want some gay progress, like some progress in the sexual orientation equality, would want.
Yeah, I mean,
Hopefully.
I always thought it was just about being equal. You
Right.
know, I always thought it was just about being equal.
And equal isn't getting all the special attention.
Equal is just doing what you do, just like the rest of us.
Right.
And at the end of the day, that's, I don't know how far along we are, and it sucks, because I've always thought people are just people. You just need to know them and get to know them, and we all have the same dreams, we all have the same desires, we all have the same nightmares, things that keep us up at night.
Right.
And all we want is just to be respected and loved. And quite frankly, this poor kid deserves a little bit better than what he's getting, even though I'm sure he wants to play football in the NFL.
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure he does, and hopefully he puts the work in and comes back, but he deserves a little better treatment.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the media is doing him any favors by blowing it up like this, though.
Well, that's what they wanted. They wanted their story. They wanted their Jackie Robinson, here's why we go through this story.
Yeah, they don't really care about the actual person.
No.
Right, yeah.
No. And at the end of the day, that's what's disturbing. All right, Ed, your
Scott,
first episode of the Empty Room podcast. We've come to the close.
We got it. I don't want to end it yet. We have to do something. I've listened to every single episode, and I want the What's Better Than LeBron segment. I want it. I need it.
Well, you had your chance when we talked about the San Antonio Spurs and Tony Parker.
That was off the mic.
And it was a little bit off the mic. Oh no, the who's better than LeBron James bit that my friend Eric does not like. He's not a fan of that. And you know what? I'm going to go with it. I'll give you a little taste. I won't give you the whole treatment because we're already an hour 30 in, but I'll give you a little taste. I was watching the Celtics and the Nets play. And I was watching this whole thing go down, and I was watching the play, and it was actually, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to hate it. I thought I was going to be miserable, but it turns out, the Celtics are kind of okay. And this kid Smart played out of his mind. I mean, he played very, very well.
He might be pretty good.
He played very, very well. And I'm thinking to myself, in terms of the basketball IQ of Smart, he may be better than LeBron James. And here's why I say that.
See, I was gonna go with Shaq.
No,
but I like where we're
no.
going right now.
Here's why. Because I still believe, and by the way, I get a rash of shit for this because I talk about it. They all think LeBron's really good. And I say LeBron's not a good basketball player.
Great athlete.
He's an unbelievable athlete, one of the best the NBA has ever seen.
I gotta pause you for a second.
Yeah.
Max Kellerman line that you would love.
Oh,
the
yeah,
other
what'd
day
he
on
say?
TV. He said, Michael Jordan ran faster and jumped higher than LeBron, but other than that, LeBron's a better athlete.
Well, Michael, and
People forget, unfortunately. But
I've been on record. Michael is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I've seen stuff. I like basketball. I've been involved in basketball. I've researched basketball, and there's nothing that I've seen that MJ couldn't do or do beyond what most people think was possible. Michael Jordan changed the game, changed rules on the game, and the only thing that LeBron has changed is the fact that, wow, it's okay if we just bowl over people and dry dunk it.
it's also a fine for flopping now.
Yeah, so those are two things he's
Great
added to the
improvement.
table. So the way Smart played, the way he was running the offense, using pick and rolls, I'm going to go on a very small limb and obviously damage my reputation, but I think Smart's going to be better than LeBron James, and that is my, who's better than LeBron James bit.
I absolutely love it.
Next time I'll be more prepared because, like I said, there wasn't many NBA opportunities here, and then you got to watch out because Eric will yell at me because he really doesn't like that bit at all. But thank you for being on this episode of the Empty Room Podcast, episode 11. I hope you had a good time.
I loved it.
Hopefully we can get you back and
hope
have
so.
some good times as we go through Empty Room Podcast, episode 11. Thanks for listening. The Empty Room Podcast, episode 11 is completed. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and the YouTube. Music by High Congress.